Hello everybody. So I'm doing a video about how I started to manifest my mental illness, how I started to go crazy, basically. Um, it started when I was in college. I was in college at Spring Hill College in Mobile, Alabama, and I was smoking a lot of pot. I was smoking a lot of marijuana. Um, I was around 20 at the time, and I was smoking uh, a few. I'm trying to think. I'm trying. I was skipping class uh, regularly. Um, I was skipping class and getting high. Just noticed there's a lot of little bugs on the ground, so I'm just gonna sit with my legs up. But I was skipping class and getting high, and so I was smoking a lot, smoking all day. Basically, I was trying to maintain a high all day, and I I ended up I was studying theology. Theology is the study of religion, the study of God, and I ended up I really liked it. And one of my professors, I really liked his teaching style. And because his teaching style really resonated with me, I was doing well in his class. And so he ended up inviting me to a little get together that not all the students were invited to. It was like a special invite, but I was at the time I had severe social anxiety, which is part of the reason why I smoked so much because it helped me relax. So it didn't even cross my mind to actually go to this party, and it didn't occur to me to like explain to him why I wouldn't go. I just decided not to show up. And I actually showed up to his class one day, and I was high. And I was sitting there, and my mind started kind of to lose focus. And what I heard was, well, if you didn't want to go to the party, you could have just said something. And this was during the middle of class. He was lecturing the entire class, and that's what I heard. And so, that was my first auditory hallucination, as far as I know. And I remember being like shocked. I didn't get up and leave class or anything. I was just all like, that was weird. I just heard his thoughts. I remember that's what I was thinking. I was like, I just heard his thoughts. Like, that was weird. And so I left class with that incident in my head, but I couldn't do anything with it. I just continued to go to some classes, skip other classes, and get high. And I ended up one night was like I said, I have social anxiety, and so one night I was smoking with some friends, but not close friends, more like associates, and it was painfully awkward, and that kind of drove me to be more secluded and to think that I should, smoke alone and like be alone. And it increased my distrust of people, not because they did anything wrong, but just because I was having bad experiences with people. Hearing my professor say that, hallucinating that, and then having that awkward, painfully awkward experience with those people to go smoke. I was just being very isolated. I was living a very kind of isolated life. I was only smoking with my boyfriend at the time, and that was a toxic relationship. He was cheating on me, and he was an enabler, and we were codependent. Like, instead of encouraging me to do well in school, he was encouraging me to like smoke with him and stuff like that. And like I said, he was cheating on me, and it was just a whole big mess. Um, anyways, and so I was so when things started to happen that was strange, I didn't have anyone to talk to, and it was extra strange because, like I said, I was isolated. And so I remember I had a paper that I had to turn in for one of my classes, and it was about my paper. I was going, it's a Catholic college, and the thesis of my paper was, you don't need to be Catholic. As a matter of fact, you don't need to practice any religion at all in order to be, saved by God, or in order to believe in God. You can believe in God without having religion. And my professor was not happy with that paper. He was very kind of teed off about that paper. And he spent, the next time I saw him in class, he spent the class indirectly talking about that paper. And I wasn't Catholic, and he knew that. And he was all like, well, I definitely don't want someone who's not Catholic chiming in on Catholic issues. And I'm all like, dude, I'm literally just doing my assignment. Um, but he was fairly nice about it. But so that's when like the paranoia started kicking in, because this was after I heard my professor had that hallucination with my professor, with my favorite professor in class. So the paranoia started kicking in, like, okay, my professors, because the theology department was a small department. So I'm all like, okay, like my professors are like gaining up against me. They're like talking about me, which is probably true in that they were talking about me. I was a black girl at a private institute of mostly white people, a private Catholic institute. They probably were studying, and I was studying theology. I was like, I was stuck out like a sore thumb. I wasn't a Catholic, so they probably were talking about me, but that doesn't mean it was bad stuff. But I was, that's when like, so the paranoia, started kicking in. I was isolated. I believed they were talking about me. I had the hallucination. I was smoking a lot of pot. Um, what else happened? So then I had another paper that I had to turn in, but I was smoking so much and skipping so much class that I knew it wasn't gonna happen. Now this last paper that I turned in, where the professor was like upset with me, but he was nice about it, I turned that one in a day late, and I wrote it in one night, 12 pages in one night high. Okay. And I turned that in. And so this next professor, he was all like, I'm not accepting any late papers. If you need help, just come and let me know, blah, blah, blah. And he was like looking directly at me as he said it. And so that's again playing into my playing into my paranoia. I was all like, oh my gosh, like they've been talking about me. Like he's talking about, exactly what happened with my last professor. I'm like, oh my gosh, they've been talking about me. Um, at this point, I didn't really know about schizoaffective bipolar. I just was living my life. And so obviously I didn't turn in that paper, and I got an F for it. And at this point, I was in contact with my sister, who was going to school here in Lafayette. And she could tell on the phone that I was having a hard time. And something happened with my boyfriend at the time where I had a hallucination that I could hear. I can't remember what was said, but I hallucinated around him, and I was all like, okay, that's it. I'm hearing people's thoughts. I was convinced that I was psychic or something. I was like, I'm hearing people's thoughts. And I remember telling my sister that on the phone. I was on the phone with her, and I had a hallucination. I was all like, okay, I'm hearing people's thoughts. And I called one of my friend's mom. I called her mom, and I told her that I was smoking a lot of pot, and I told her that I was having a hard time and I was crying. And so she called the school, and she got the school security guards to come check on me. And it looked like they were laughing at me. And I was all like, I mean, your mom, calls and be like, check on my baby. And it looked like they were laughing at me, so that didn't help. And so I ended up dropping out of school because I was so paranoid. I thought like the school, it was a small campus. Like I said, it was a private school, like maybe 1,500 students. What started happening was things started happening where it seemed like a hell of a coincidence. Like I was all like, um, before I quit, I was all like, man, like no one really cares about theology as much as I do. I had been fasting, um, even though I was like getting high, I've been reading my Bible a lot, and I was fasting and stuff like that and praying. And I was all like, no one is taking like this God thing as seriously as I do. And I remember the day that I said that, I all of a sudden I heard what seemed to me, all of a sudden it was like a hell of a coincidence. But the day that I was thinking that, and that I voiced that out into the universe, two people walked by me and they were talking about God theology, and I was all like, what? I remember I'd always struggle with my self-esteem, and one of the days, I spent 3 days locked in my dorm room because I didn't want to go outside because I thought I was so ugly. I didn't want anyone to see me. And the day that I came out, one of the guys who was happened to be an atheist, and I knew that, I heard him say like, "Oh, she's so hot," like different things kept, like the universe, different things kept happening that was a hell of a coincidence. And it was making me extra paranoid, and I was still like smoking, and I was isolated, so I didn't have anyone to like talk to and to take me out of my little bubble of craziness. One of my friends now, she calls it like when her mom has a mental illness, and she says when her mom like gets off her meds, she says she goes on a trip, and like you kind of lose touch with reality. I had no one I had no one to center me back in reality. I was just in a bubble of my own paranoia. So I was like, so it was very hard. Uh, so that's when I went crazy, and I left school and I came down here to Lafayette, and I was staying with my sister, and I wasn't having hallucinations, but I kept having coincidences where I might be thinking something and then someone would say it out loud. I would think it, I think a certain word, I think about a certain topic, and then somehow it would come up, or someone would say it out loud. I remember that kept happening to me. Different things like that. Um, People taking pictures around me freaked me out. I thought people were taking pictures of me. Um, yeah, I sold all of my belongings. I cut off all of my hair. I thought that um, I thought God was speaking to me. I was hyper religious. I mean, people get hyper religious when they're sick. That's a common thing. But I was especially hyper religious. I mean, I was a theology major, so I was especially hyper religious. It was very, very hard, very confusing. Um, yeah, and then my dad, when I got around my dad, he ended up sending me to the hospital, and they see so many people. It's a circle. They see, like, they just get them in, get them out, get them in, get them out. So when they toyed around with the idea that I might be bipolar, I didn't take them seriously because of how many people, because it seemed like a machine. So I was like, oh, whatever. But that was when I was 20. I went to the hospital for like a week, and then I left. And then like a week later, if or a few days later, I was back in the hospital again for like a week, and then I left. And then they prescribed me medicine, but I didn't stay on it because I didn't believe the diagnosis. But this second time around, I had to go to the hospital, and then I left. Then I had to go to the hospital again. Then I left, and I'm at 27, and I believe the diagnosis, and I'm taking my medicine, and I'm going to counseling, and it has been. I tell you what, going crazy has been a hell of a trip. Um, it has been a hell of a trip. It's been something to recover from. Um, I I keep having dreams about smoking. I would love to light up some weed, to relax and to get high. But I have to be careful with that stuff because people put all sorts of things in it, especially because it's not regulated where I am, and I don't have a prescription for it. And people might put, like, I don't know if you guys have heard about Mojo and different things like that, and people smoking it and then never being the same ever again. I don't want to. I've already lost my kids and my house, my education, my jobs. I've lost everything, you know, in part because of my mental illness. I don't want to continue that broken cycle, you know what I mean? So I don't want to continue making myself sick and losing everything that I'm working for. Right now I'm working and I'm trying to save up to buy a van, and I'm trying to get my mental health on track so that I can have custody of my kids, you know, if they want to come with me in the future. So I don't want to mess that up, even though I keep having dreams about smoking. I'm actually going to my counseling sessions and I'm taking my medicine. And now I have strange dreams, like hallucinatory type dreams. And every now and again, I hear a voice. I don't hear them. When I first started taking my medicine after I left the hospital, I was hearing them more often. But I'm hearing it less often now. And let's see. And my counselor says she thinks that my mood is becoming more stable. And that's good. That's good for me. Uh, I'm starting to get more clarity, I think, like, because I was suicidal and very, like I said, I was in my own bubble and out of touch with reality. So I think I'm starting to become back in touch with reality, but on my own terms, because I think a lot of society is bull anyway. Like a lot of like the different our cultural practices, our cultural norms, I'm not for. Like, hey, look at my armpits. That should be a sign that I'm kind of anti culture about some things. Kind of punk about some things. So I'm coming back to terms. I'm coming to touch into touch with reality on my own terms, but I am coming back into touch with reality. Um, yeah, so I just wanted to make this video to share that time I went crazy. I hope you guys I hope this helps someone. If you're going through something similar, or you have gone through something similar, let me know. I'm gonna post this on my Patreon account. And I'm gonna post a little bit of stuff on my YouTube, but I don't know what I'm gonna post on my YouTube. But I'm gonna post this on my Patreon account, and I hope that uh, I don't know. I might post it on my YouTube, but I'm really thinking about posting it on my Patreon. But I hope you guys are having a lovely day.